Dear friend, welcome to Elder Insights. I'm truly glad you're here. If your heart feels a little heavy lately, or if you've been looking around your home thinking, where do I even begin? Please know you're not alone. Today, I want to talk about something that's often misunderstood: decluttering. It sounds like a task, doesn't it? Like something that should sit neatly on a to-do list between water the plants and pay the bills. But if you're like me, and many other women I've spoken to, decluttering is never just about the things. It's about what those things carry. The scarf your mother wore every winter, the birthday card with handwriting that's no longer here, the drawer filled with items you meant to sort through years ago, but couldn't quite bring yourself to touch. These aren't just belongings. They're bookmarks in the story of your life. And when it's time to let some of them go, it can feel like turning a page you're not quite ready to leave behind. That's why this video exists. Not to rush you or simplify something deeply personal, but to sit beside you in a way. To gently offer some thoughts I wish I'd known before I started my own journey. Thoughts that might make this process feel more manageable, and maybe even at times meaningful. So if you're holding on to things or memories or emotions that are hard to sort through, I hope this space gives you room to breathe. And if anything I share today brings you a sense of calm or clarity, feel free to like or share this video. It helps us know we're creating something useful. Subscribe if you'd like to join us again. And please, leave a 1 in the comments if this kind of topic feels right for you, or 0 if you're looking for something different. Your voice helps shape what we create. Now, let me begin with the very first thing I wish someone had gently told me. Number 1, decluttering is emotional, and that's okay. No one really prepared me for how emotional decluttering would be. I thought I was just going through boxes and clearing out space. But what I didn't expect was how every little item seemed to hold a memory. A recipe card in my mother's handwriting, a scarf I wore to my son's graduation, even a chipped mug from a long-ago vacation. Letting go wasn't just about the object. It was about letting go of a part of the past. I want to tell you now, if you start to feel sad, overwhelmed, or even unsure while you're decluttering, that's completely normal. You're not doing it wrong. You're not being too sentimental. You're just being human. Before I understood this, I would get frustrated with myself for crying over something as simple as an old sweater. Now, I see that honoring those emotions is part of the process. It's okay to pause. It's okay to hold something in your hands for a little while longer before making a decision. Sometimes, I'd set something aside and make myself a cup of tea. I'd come back later, feeling a bit calmer and more grounded. One viewer once told me she lights a candle before she starts. She plays soft music and takes her time. Another said she keeps a cozy blanket nearby and treats herself kindly on tough days. Little rituals like these can make a big difference. If you're starting your own decluttering journey, create an environment where you feel safe and supported. Whether you invite a loved one to sit with you or just take a few deep breaths before opening a box, do what feels right for you. Let this be a process of care, not just cleaning, because letting go of things doesn't mean letting go of the love or meaning they carried. It just means you're ready for something new. And that's something to be proud of. Once I accepted the emotions, the next challenge was figuring out where to begin. Number 2, start small, but be consistent. When I first started decluttering, I made the classic mistake. I tried to do everything at once. The whole house, every room, every drawer. Within a day, I was exhausted and discouraged. Looking back, I wish someone had told me that it's okay, better even, to start small. One drawer, one shelf, one little corner. That's all you need to begin. Small steps may not seem like much at first, but they build momentum. And over time, that momentum turns into real progress. One woman in our community shared how she began with her bathroom cabinet, an easy place with fewer emotional attachments. Just clearing that space gave her a boost of confidence to move forward. The key is consistency. You don't have to do a lot in one go, but do a little regularly. Some people like to set a timer for 15 or 30 minutes. Others create a checklist of areas they want to tackle and celebrate each one they complete. I even knew someone who used a sticker system, 1 gold star per finished space. It made her smile every time. Find a rhythm that fits your life. Maybe you declutter every Sunday afternoon or every morning after breakfast. What matters most is that you keep going at your own pace. And don't overlook the power of celebrating those small wins. Finishing that one drawer, that's a win. Clearing off the top of a cluttered dresser, another win. You're not just tidying up, you're building habits, reclaiming your space, and honoring your energy. So start small and let the feeling of lightness grow from there. Bit by bit, you'll look around one day and realize you've done more than you thought possible. As I took those first small steps, I also realized something else. I didn't have to part with everything. Number 3, not everything has to go. I was sitting by the window one afternoon, the kind of afternoon where the light slants just right across the floor. A small breeze moved the curtains, and I remember holding an old scarf in my hands. It had been my mother's. Not expensive or particularly beautiful, just something she wore often. For a moment, I clutched it tighter, unsure if I was ready to let it go. That's when it hit me. Decluttering isn't about throwing everything away. It's not some ruthless process of erasing the past. It's about making room for the present, for peace, for easier days ahead. You don't have to part with every item. That's something I wish I had been told earlier. Keep what truly matters, the things that bring comfort or joy or a deep connection to who you are. A gentle approach that helped me was the maybe box. I'd place uncertain items in there and revisit them a month or 2 later. Most of the time, I realized I hadn't missed them, and that made it easier to say goodbye. But for those few pieces that lingered in my heart, I gave them space. A friend of mine, Ellen, had a clever method. She allowed herself a memory shelf, just one small area where her most sentimental things could live. It helped her contain the clutter without cutting ties to what she loved. Decluttering isn't black and white. It's not keep everything or let everything go. It's about prioritizing what supports your life now and letting go of what's quietly weighing you down. With kindness, with choice, and always with respect for where you've been. Still, there were moments I felt stuck until I learned it's okay to ask for support. Number 4, ask for help when you need it. There's something many of us struggle with, especially as we grow older: asking for help. I know I did. I thought I had to prove I could do it all on my own, that leaning on others somehow meant I was less capable. But when I finally let someone in, the whole experience changed. I remember the day my daughter came over to help me go through the kitchen. We laughed over gadgets I hadn't used in decades, some I didn't even remember owning. She brought a fresh perspective, gently suggesting, "Mom, maybe someone else could use this more than we are." And she was right. Asking for help doesn't mean giving up control. It means inviting someone to walk with you through a meaningful process. Whether it's a family member, a friend, or even a professional organizer. Having another person nearby offers both emotional support and practical help. One woman I spoke with told me she invited her neighbor over every Saturday morning for 1 hour. They'd make tea, put on music, and declutter just one small area. Over time, it made a big difference, and they grew closer through it. Another idea? Turn the process into storytelling. When my grandchildren helped me go through old photos, we didn't just declutter. We shared memories. They learned about my childhood, about their grandpa, about moments that shaped our family. It became a connection point, not just a task. If your family lives far away, don't hesitate to reach out to someone nearby. A kind neighbor, a community volunteer. There are even services designed to assist seniors with decluttering in a respectful, caring way. Remember, there's strength in knowing your limits and in letting others support you. You don't have to do this alone. Sometimes the most meaningful progress begins when you let someone in. Number 5, letting go doesn't mean forgetting. Sometimes, after all that support and conversation, you're left sitting quietly again, just you and a box filled with memories. And that's when the emotional weight of letting go can feel the heaviest. One of the hardest lessons I learned in this process was that letting go doesn't mean losing the memory itself. I'll never forget the day I held my mother's old recipe box in my hands. The edges were frayed, the cards yellowed with age. I could almost smell the scent of cinnamon and fresh-baked bread that always filled her kitchen. It hit me, though. Just because I was setting the box aside didn't mean I was saying goodbye to her, to those moments. It took me a while to realize that memories live within us, not in objects. And yet, the idea of parting with a piece of the past felt like an emotional hurdle I couldn't quite cross. I thought that by letting go of items, I was somehow erasing the love, the stories, and the experiences tied to them. But that couldn't be further from the truth. I found a simple yet profound way to honor those precious memories without holding on to everything. One day, a friend shared how she took photos of items before parting with them. Whether it was her mother's handkerchief or her grandfather's watch, she said it was like keeping the memory alive without the weight of the object itself. I decided to try this. When I gave away old family heirlooms, I took a picture, held it in my mind for a while, and felt lighter. Another idea that really worked for me was repurposing some of those treasures. I turned old fabric scraps into a quilt, bits of my past sewn into something that could be used every day. A woman I met during this process had the same experience with turning old t-shirts into blankets. She said she could feel the memories wrapping around her, even though the shirts had been retired. It's as if you create something new, while still holding on to the essence of what matters most. So, let go when you're ready, but remember, letting go doesn't erase the love or the significance of the things you're parting with. The memories are yours to keep, no matter what. Number 6, celebrate your progress. Through it all, one thing kept me going: learning to notice and celebrate every bit of progress. It's easy to focus on how far you have to go. I used to do that all the time, stand in the middle of a messy room, feeling like I hadn't made a dent. But what I didn't realize back then was how important it is to recognize the progress you have made. Even the smallest steps forward are worth celebrating. After finishing a drawer or clearing a corner, I started treating myself in small ways. A cup of tea in the sunshine, a short walk with my favorite music, something to say, "You did it." It may sound simple, but it helped me feel proud instead of overwhelmed. One woman I spoke to had a lovely idea. She kept a little notebook where she wrote down each space she cleared: linen closet, kitchen drawer, photo box. And every time she opened that notebook, she could see how far she'd come. She even added stickers. It brought her joy, like checking off something important from a to-do list. Only it was about reclaiming her space and peace of mind. Another helpful tip: before and after photos. I didn't think much of it until I saw a friend's photo album. Seeing the difference visually, what once was cluttered and now calm, it's motivating. It gives you something real to hold on to when the process feels slow. You don't need big rewards. What matters is acknowledging your effort. You're not just tidying up. You're making space for peace, for clarity, for joy. So the next time you finish a task, pause, breathe it in. You're doing something meaningful for yourself, and that's worth celebrating. Number 7, plan for the future. Eventually, I began thinking not just about today, but about the future and what I'd leave behind. As we age, decluttering takes on a different meaning. It's no longer just about making space. It becomes part of how we care for our loved ones and the legacy we leave behind. I didn't always think about it this way. When I first started, my goal was simply to feel less overwhelmed at home. But over time, I realized that sorting through my belongings was also a quiet way of helping my family. It meant that someday, they wouldn't have to make difficult decisions on my behalf. If you haven't already, consider having open conversations with your loved ones. Ask them what items they'd like to keep. You might be surprised. Sometimes it's not the things we think are most valuable, but the little things that hold meaning for them. I also found comfort in writing notes or stories to go along with certain keepsakes. For instance, I passed down my mother's necklace to my granddaughter with a card explaining where it came from and why it mattered. It turned a simple object into a treasured memory. Planning ahead may feel heavy, but in truth, it's an act of love. It brings peace of mind, and it allows your home and your heart to reflect what matters most. Number 8, you don't have to do it all at once. With that in mind, I reminded myself, this journey doesn't have to happen all at once. Margaret, 73, told me something that stayed with me. She said, "I spent 6 months on one room, and I don't regret a single day." At first, I didn't understand. 6 months for one room? But then she explained how every time she entered that space, she felt overwhelmed. So instead of trying to conquer it in a weekend, she worked on it slowly, piece by piece, corner by corner. And you know what? That made all the difference. There's no rule book that says you have to declutter your entire home in a week or even a month. This isn't a race. Some days you'll feel ready to make decisions, and other days you might just sit and reflect. Both are valid. Both are part of the journey. Margaret started with the least emotional items: old paperwork, duplicate kitchen tools, expired products. Then, when she felt more confident, she moved on to family keepsakes and photo boxes. By the end, she didn't just have a cleaner space. She had clarity and peace. That story reminded me to slow down too. I stopped forcing myself to do more than I could handle in a day. I let myself pause, come back later, and work through things gently. Some items need time, and that's okay. You're not falling behind when you take your time. You're honoring the process. And sometimes, going slower helps you go deeper. What matters most is that you keep moving forward, even if it's one small corner at a time. Number 9, create a decluttering schedule. To make it feel manageable, I found that having a gentle schedule helped me stay steady. At first, I kept waiting for a perfect day to start. A free afternoon, a right mood, everything in place. But those days rarely came, so I changed my approach. I blocked out 30 minutes 3 times a week, just like I would for a doctor's appointment or a walk with a friend. It gave structure to the process without overwhelming me. I remember hearing from a woman in our community who color-coded her calendar with tiny labels: yellow for paperwork, green for kitchen, blue for photos. She treated it like gentle appointments with herself. That small visual cue helped her stay on track without pressure. What I've learned is this: consistency matters more than intensity. Decluttering for hours in one day and then nothing for weeks can leave you tired and discouraged. But 20 or 30 focused minutes regularly, that builds progress. It builds confidence too. Your schedule doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to support you. Morning or evening, weekdays or weekends. Choose what feels natural and respectful of your energy. Think of your decluttering time as an act of care, not just a chore. You're making space not only in your home, but in your day, for clarity, for peace, and for yourself. Number 10, use the 4-box method. Even with a schedule, I still needed a method to help with decisions, and that's where the 4-box method came in. When I first opened the hall closet, the one that hadn't been touched in years, I froze. Coats, blankets, board games, boxes I didn't remember packing. I didn't know where to begin. Everything felt tangled, both physically and emotionally. Here's how it works. For every space you declutter, prepare 4 boxes, or bags or bins. Whatever you have on hand, label them: keep, donate, trash, and relocate. Having these categories in front of you helps you make one decision at a time. Not 10, not 20, just one. It quiets the overwhelm. That day in the closet, I placed a winter coat I still wear in the keep box, a duplicate throw blanket, donate, an old broken umbrella, trash, a family photo album that belonged in the living room, relocate. One by one, I worked through the clutter, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel stuck. Another woman I spoke with keeps an extra label on each box with the date she filled it. That way, if she needs time to revisit her decisions, she gives herself permission without losing track. You don't need fancy tools or a complicated plan, just 4 clear choices and a bit of space. This method helps turn uncertainty into action. It gives your hands something to do while your heart sorts things out too. Number 11, digitize when possible. While sorting through physical items, I also found a way to preserve memories without keeping everything. One rainy afternoon, I found myself sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by photo albums. Some were over 40 years old. The pages were delicate, the edges curling, and the colors starting to fade. I knew I couldn't keep them all, not in their bulky, fragile form, but I also couldn't imagine throwing them away. That's when my son suggested digitizing them. At first, I hesitated. Technology can feel like a mountain when you didn't grow up with it. But he showed me a simple scanner app on his phone. Together, we spent an afternoon turning those old photos into digital copies. He saved them on a drive and even created folders by year and event. It was easier than I expected and more meaningful than I realized. Now my memories are safe, they're organized, and best of all, I was able to share them. My grandchildren each got their own digital album. One of them even used a photo for a school project about family history. I felt proud knowing those stories wouldn't get lost in a dusty box. This approach doesn't just work for photos. You can digitize documents, letters, recipes, even old greeting cards. A friend of mine keeps a digital memory folder where she saves scanned birthday cards from loved ones. It's her way of keeping them close without cluttering her home. You don't have to do it all at once. Start with a small batch. Ask for help if you need it. But don't underestimate how powerful it can be to preserve your memories in a way that's light, lasting, and easy to share. Number 12, be mindful of just-in-case thinking. Still, I found myself hesitating over things I hadn't used in years. Just in case. This mindset made it hard to part with things. But the truth is, if you haven't needed it in years, you probably won't need it again. This kind of thinking is common. We tell ourselves, what if I need it later? Or what if someone else could use it someday? But more often than not, those some days never come. One question that helped me shift my mindset was, if I needed this item tomorrow, could I replace it? And most of the time, the answer was yes. Or I could borrow it, or find another way. That simple question helped me release so many just-in-case items I had been holding on to for years. A friend shared another approach. She placed her just-in-case items in a sealed box, wrote the date on it, and put it in the garage. If she didn't open the box within 6 months, she donated it without even peeking inside. And she said she never missed a single thing. Letting go of just in case is about trusting yourself. Trusting that you'll find a solution if the need truly arises. Trusting that your space and your peace of mind matters more than storing things out of fear. You're not getting rid of your resourcefulness. You're just making room to breathe. Number 13, donate with purpose. One shift that helped me let go was thinking about how my items could help someone else. I remember standing by the door with 2 bags of clothes. I had sorted through them carefully. Some things I hadn't worn in years, others I had outgrown, not just in size, but in season of life. Still, as I gripped the handles, I felt a twinge of doubt. Was I really ready to let these things go? Then my neighbor Linda told me about a women's shelter in our town that accepts clothing donations. They don't just need warm clothes, she said. They need dignity. A nice blouse or soft scarf can make someone feel seen again. That changed everything for me. When I began donating with intention, it no longer felt like losing something. It felt like passing it forward. My extra blankets went to a homeless shelter. My late husband's books found a new home at the library. I even joined a local Buy Nothing group where people give away items directly to neighbors in need. Seeing how happy someone was to receive my unused dishes or extra towels gave me a sense of joy I didn't expect. Letting go became easier when I knew where the items were going. I wasn't discarding them. I was giving them a second life. So, if you're struggling to part with something, consider where it could do the most good. Research local charities, churches, or community centers. Some places will even pick up donations from your doorstep. And if that feels overwhelming, start with 1 bag, 1 category, 1 step. There's something deeply fulfilling about knowing that the things that once served you can now serve someone else. It brings comfort, and it brings purpose to the process. Number 14, keep safety in mind. But through it all, I had to remind myself to slow down and take care. Physically, too. Decluttering often involves more than sorting through things. It can mean reaching, lifting, climbing, even shifting furniture. And these movements, while simple in theory, can lead to strains or injuries if we're not careful. When I first began decluttering, I didn't think twice about lifting heavy boxes or bending to reach the back of low cabinets. But one morning, while trying to move an old storage bin from the top shelf of my closet, I lost my balance. Nothing serious happened, but it shook me. And it reminded me that safety isn't something to overlook, especially as we grow older. Now, I make sure I have the right tools on hand. a sturdy step stool with handles, a dolly for moving boxes, and most importantly, someone nearby if I need help. I've learned to pace myself too. There's no shame in spreading tasks out or asking someone to assist with heavier items. A friend of mine sets a timer when she declutters. After 30 minutes, she stops, even if she's mid-project. She told me if I overdo it, I won't be able to keep going tomorrow. And she's right. The goal isn't to power through. It's to care for your home and your body. Also, be mindful when handling fragile items, glassware, old frames, delicate keepsakes. Decluttering can be emotional, and when we're distracted or tired, accidents happen more easily. Think of safety as part of your self-care during this process. You deserve to feel supported, not sore. So take your time, prepare your space, and protect your well-being. Decluttering should lighten your life, not put you at risk. Number 15. Focus on the benefits. And when things felt tough, what truly kept me motivated was remembering the why. There were days when I questioned whether it was all worth it. The sorting, the deciding, the letting go. But now, as I walk through my home, I feel it, the difference, the stillness in the spaces I've cleared, the ease in finding what I need, the way I can sit down with a cup of tea and not feel the weight of a to-do list pressing on my shoulders. Decluttering hasn't just made my home neater, it's made it more livable, more peaceful, more mine. I rediscovered items I'd forgotten, like a handwritten letter from my mother, tucked into an old book, and a photo I hadn't seen in years. These small treasures felt even more meaningful now, surrounded by space instead of buried in clutter. One woman I spoke with said, "Every item I let go of gave me back a little more breathing room." And she was right. The process wasn't just physical, it was emotional, mental, even spiritual in its own quiet way. Decluttering isn't about perfection. It's about being able to move through your home with more comfort and confidence. About making space for the things and the people that truly matter now. So if you ever feel stuck, try to picture the outcome: a calmer kitchen, a restful bedroom, fewer decisions weighing you down. That vision can carry you forward, especially on the days when it feels hard. You're not just getting rid of things. You're clearing a path for clarity, for comfort, and for what's next. And that's something truly valuable. And so, dear friend, if you've made it here with me, thank you. Decluttering isn't just about what we let go of. It's about what we choose to carry forward, the memories we keep, the space we reclaim, the quiet we create after years of holding on. Through this journey, you've made decisions big and small. You've honored your story, room by room, memory by memory. Maybe you shed a few tears. Maybe you smiled at something you thought you'd lost. And maybe, just maybe, you've started to feel a little lighter, not just in your home, but in your heart. Please remember, this process is not about doing it perfectly. It's about doing it gently, kindly, at your own pace. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are someone who is choosing to shape your space into something that reflects who you are now. And that is a beautiful, brave thing. I hope this video has brought you not just guidance, but comfort, a sense that someone understands, that someone sees how much care and courage this takes. And if it has, I'd be so grateful if you gave this video a like or shared it with someone who might need the same gentle reminder. Subscribe if you'd like to be part of more conversations like this one. And leave a 1 in the comments if this resonated with you, or a 0 if you'd like us to explore something different next time. We listen and we care. Until then, take good care of yourself. Rest when we need to. Breathe. Trust your rhythm. And know this: every small step you take is a meaningful one.